Let's speak to Ian Austin now, who is a former Labour MP. He is an Aston Villa fan. Just before we do, we can have a quick look at the Chief Constable being put under pressure. This is Craig Guilford of West Midlands Police.
I asked the question about why we're using different incidents of football involving violence where Israelis were involved as a way to highlight the threat that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans played into the community.
It feels to us, from everything we've seen, that there was a need that you felt that you had to justify banning these fans, and that scraping was done to find a reason.
Right. Well, that's absolutely not the case. I'm really sorry if it comes across in that way. That was absolutely not the case. The information, the intelligence that we received, that we documented, and we've shared absolutely all of that with HMIC FRS very, very recently, was all gone through. The mistake that was made in terms of the West Ham was one individual doing one Google search because he couldn't find the reference because it wasn't there within the system.
Ian Austin is with us now, Lord Austin. Ian, for people who haven't been watching this in the same level of detail as we have perhaps this afternoon, can you just take people through what has actually happened here?
Well, I think what's happened is that West Midlands Police capitulated to a campaign by extremists, anti-Semites, sectarian politicians, street thugs and hate preachers in Birmingham. They capitulated to them, and they decided to ban Israeli fans from coming to watch the football match. Then they went back and tried to find evidence to support that decision. In some cases, they made up evidence to support, and then they lied about it to the public and to Parliament. I think it's an absolutely extraordinary set of events. I would never have believed this was possible. I think the evidence that was presented to Parliament today was in some cases scarcely credible, in other cases not credible at all. I'm amazed that the Chief Constable is still in his job, and I think he should be fired. I think he should be fired, I really do. I think that if the Police and Crime Commissioner, who appears to be supine, silent and useless, and has so far refused, it seems to me, to say anything about this at all, if he won't do his job in holding the Chief Constable to account, then I think the Home Secretary's got to use her powers and get rid of him.
Parliament, certainly in the form of the Home Affairs Select Committee, these committees are often criticised. I think it's done its job calling him back, calling the Chief Constable and others, including the Assistant Chief Constable, back. But what you're saying there, which I totally agree with actually, I think the facts bear it out, are a decision, retrospective justification for the decision, going back and saying we're justifying it but we're actually coming up with the reasons now, making up evidence and then lying to Parliament about it. It doesn't get much more serious accusing, I'm not saying you're doing this, Parliament, the evidence is there, you're telling us what has happened. This is the Chief Constable of a major police force in our country, and it's not just him, it's others who are supporting him, it's others up the chain. This is really serious stuff. We're in a situation, I talk on my programme about instances of two-tier policing. Some people say that isn't happening in our country. This is clear as day evidence of that happening. Policing is meant to be impartial. It's meant to be without fear or favour. It has been partial. It has been with fear of what some in the community would say. It is with favour towards one side of a community against another side of the community. This is not sustainable, even if these people go. There has to be serious change here, Ian, doesn't there?
I think it's completely unacceptable. I mean, it's extraordinary for a Chief Constable to be recalled to Parliament because the committee didn't believe what they'd been told the first time. And official papers, which were released today, show that the Israeli fans were banned from Birmingham because, quote, elements of the community in the West Midlands wanted to arm themselves. Just think about what that means. Now, instead of dealing with the racist extremists in Birmingham who were threatening violence, they hid that evidence. They invented evidence to support the decision they'd already taken to ban the Israeli fans who would have been targeted by those thugs. They then lied about that. They blamed the Israelis, and they claimed the Jewish community supported it. None of that was true. None of it was true. None of it was true. This is absolutely devastating, I think, for West Midlands Police. And I think the Chief Constable really should be, if he doesn't resign, he should be fired. I think it is. I think it's just a really extraordinary situation. In the end, look, Peter, what he's decided to do by capitulating to that campaign, he decided not to do his job, because his job is to uphold the law and ensure that people can go about their business freely and safely. And he refused to do that with this football match. And if he doesn't want to do his job, he shouldn't be in it. That's my view.
Isn't it the case that what you've said in that answer doesn't just talk about what has happened here in this instance, but it talks about a wider societal issue here? Well,
we've got a big problem, Peter, I think. I think we've got a big problem. And if you think about it, what happened in Birmingham, which is that the authorities capitulated to a campaign by sectarian politicians, extremists and racists in the community, and street thugs. That's exactly what we saw with the hate marches that have taken over our city centres for the last 2 or 3 years. That's exactly what we've seen.
And what I want to ask you
outside synagogues is completely unacceptable.
And what I want to ask you within that exact point, Ian, is this absolute unwillingness of so many in power, not just the police but others as well. I would put this clearly at Keir Starmer's door as well. There is an unwillingness to deal with the roots of this, the causes of this, the radicalisation that is going on. They covered up their decision about the symptoms of it and what had happened, but actually the causes of it need to be dealt with as well, to root out anti-Semitism.
Well, look, to be fair to the government on this, they said the police had made the wrong decision. But the general point you make is completely correct, right? We've got to be much more robust about standing up for our values, about insisting that if people want to come to Britain, they've got to believe in British values, democracy, equality, freedom, fairness, tolerance. If they don't believe in all of those things, they shouldn't be allowed to come here. If people hate Jews, think Israel shouldn't exist, they shouldn't be allowed to come to Britain. I think we've got quite enough homegrown extremists in the country to worry about without importing any more from abroad. So I really think we've got to get a grip of what's going on in our country, and we've got to be much more robust about standing up for our values. And it is just extraordinary that we can't rely on the police in Birmingham to do that as well.
And what does this say about the police as an institution, not just about the West Midlands Police, but policing more generally? You talked about other issues as well. The Metropolitan Police, obviously a big issue too, although Sir Mark Rowley has come to the conclusion that we all came to 2 years ago, or perhaps even longer, that if you shout globalise the Intifada, actually maybe you want to, I don't know, globalise the Intifada like happened in Bondi Beach. I just wonder if Craig Guilford goes, and he absolutely should, and I totally agree with you. I think it's totally unsustainable that he continues in his job for a minute longer than that hearing at the Home Affairs Select Committee, which is still ongoing. I wonder whether other police forces need to look at this, need to look at how they police these things, especially when it comes to big controversial issues. Because at what point do they then say, oh well, we can't keep the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans safe? Actually, if we're being honest, the threat mainly came from Islamism, not that there aren't yobs and thugs and hooligans that are part of Maccabi Tel Aviv as well. But actually, okay, you go to a synagogue, we can't protect you.
Look, I think that, look, I'm not going to pretend that every Maccabi Tel Aviv fan has behaved perfectly. Of course, some of them said and did things in Amsterdam that they shouldn't have done. But the threat in Amsterdam was clearly, overwhelmingly, primarily directed towards the Israeli fans. And the police lied about that in order to ban them from coming to Birmingham. On your general question, I think that I do think we've got to insist that the police uphold the law freely and fairly, and are not running away from difficult decisions because of opposition in certain parts of the community. And we saw this. It's not just, by the way, in relation to the Maccabi Tel Aviv game. We saw this in the disturbances in Birmingham last year, where a Sky TV camera crew was threatened by a gang of thugs with weapons on the street, and instead of arresting them and locking them up, the police went to the mosque to discuss with the elders how the community could police this themselves. Now, I think that's completely unacceptable. That wouldn't happen with any other community. It certainly didn't happen with people who were posting inflammatory or incendiary, insightful messages on social media. They were arrested, charged in court and locked up within days.
Ian, thank you for your insight into that. We'll talk again, I'm sure. That is Lord Austin, Ian Austin, former Labour MP, Aston Villa fan and indefatigable campaigner against anti-Semitism, because that is what is at the heart of this. This incompetence, it's lies, it's a Chief Constable of West Midlands Police who should not be in his job if he can't do it without fear or favour impartiality. He would disagree with all of that. He would put up a robust defence, but I don't think it's credible. What do you think?